Yeah. You my number one fan, girl. You my.
Welcome back to another episode of the ShineHard Conversation. I'm your host, Johnny Bailey, and this week I'm here in Chicago, Illinois, at the Google offices. Really dope. You guys got to be here. With Fabian Elliott. He is a digital ad consultant for Google. He is also the founder of Black Tech Mecca. He's going to tell us more about what that is. Fabian has done some amazing work in the tech industry. He's been featured by Ebony, Black Enterprise, and probably multiple others. Today, he is going to tell us about the evolution of Black Tech Mecca, what it means to work for Google, and share a few gems of his personal success. So, without further ado, Fabian, it's time to shine, brother.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here, brother.
No problem.
So, as we ascend in our journey to the top, we go a long way, but we can never forget where we started.
Yeah, right.
So, talk a little bit about your childhood and what growing up was like for you.
No, for sure. So, it's interesting being now in my day-to-day, so immersed in the tech space.
Yeah.
And living in a large metropolitan city, because it's so different than from where I did come from in the origins, as far as growing up on a dirt road in Fayetteville, North Carolina. It's just it's a world that growing up I didn't know it exists. And so that question just makes me reflect on just how from where you start, it doesn't determine where you can be or where you end up. And I just think about just the wide differences of not only growing up in a more rural space like that, but not even having an interest in tech. If you asked me when I was 7 years old, 8 years old, what I wanted to be when I grew up, I probably would have told you a NFL running back. That would have been my dream, like most other folks.
Yeah. So you're a football player, athlete growing up.
Yes, I did. I played through high school. I didn't end up playing in college. I did football, wrestling, and track.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about your journey into the tech industry.
Yeah.
So you said when you were younger, you never would have thought you would work in tech.
Yeah.
So what was that moment where you realized, I'm fascinated with technology, I want to do this?
Yeah, so there was a long road from what I just described, 7, 8 years old, to actually being that fascination coming into play.
Right.
I think when I kind of reflect on it, even as I was nearing high school, nearing graduation from high school, like junior, senior year, I wasn't quite sure, what I wanted to do. And I ended up landing on marketing or landing on business just from a process of elimination. Where I thought about the classes that I either liked or didn't like, like what career path they were associated to. For example, I couldn't wrap my head around chemistry for some reason. So I was like, maybe being a doctor is not for me. And then I just did that for different classes, and I ended up going into marketing and business, and that's why I studied in school. And what's interesting is where tech came into play was through that intersection. So internet marketing, advertising technology, digital advertising, and that's where I realized that something I'm already passionate about, something I already enjoy, this is how it intersects with tech. And so that's one of the things that I always try to advocate for, is that we shouldn't force technology on the people, but we should find a way to connect it to something they're already passionate about.
That's deep. So you went to UNC-Charlotte.
Yep.
So is that where what did you study at UNC-Charlotte?
Marketing.
Marketing. So is that where you made that intersection, or was it after college that you made that intersection?
Yeah, good question. So when I went to school, I knew I wanted to study marketing. From my sports background, I thought I wanted to do sports marketing.
Yeah, me too.
You did it though. You actually, I didn't even get to do that. I thought that's what I wanted to do. But so actually, my goal was, after my freshman year, for my freshman summer, let me get an internship in marketing. Let me go ahead and hit the ground running and make some things happen. However, I wasn't able to do that. I fell short. I applied, I did what I could, but just wasn't able to secure anything. So I ended up spending the summer after my freshman year back in Fayetteville. And it was really humbling, because I remember applying for to Toys R Us and not even getting a call back, just to try and find a summer job. And I ended up
that reminds me of the founder of Alibaba.
Really?
When he said he couldn't get a job at KFC.
Yeah,
and
right,
he ends up, he's like, I'll go back he applied to Harvard, he
Yeah.
applied to KFC, he didn't
Yeah.
he didn't get accepted, and then he's like, I go back to Harvard now, teach a class.
Right. Hey, so I have some time to get to the Alibaba level, but
Jack Ma. shout
yeah,
out.
very similar though with the fact, that. But I was lucky that my church ended up allowing me to do like janitorial work.
Oh,
So
wow.
I spent that summer, and I'm not a handyman. I'm the furthest thing from a handyman. Like my mom would tell you, my wife will tell you, like I'm not the best with that.
Oh,
But they let me do work where I would clean the bathrooms, vacuum, cut the grass, like all those type of
Wow.
things for the summer. And so I made coming back from that experience, I made a decision. Like I wasn't going to spend another summer in Fayetteville against my will, and I wasn't going to have another summer without a more official or career-driven internship.
Right.
And so I came back my sophomore year with like guns blazing.
A vengeance.
Yeah, that's the best word, with a vengeance. And long story short, ended up being able to get an internship with Target, but
Okay.
it was in like their store executive programs, like retail management. So it was a step in the right direction, but it still wasn't marketing.
Right.
And so after doing that internship, after my junior year is where I went after the Google internship and was able to secure that.
Nice.
And that's where technology came into the picture.
Right. So talk about that experience.
Yeah.
I know now you're an ad consultant.
Ad tech consultant,
Ad
yeah.
tech consultant. And I mean, Google is the industry leader in so many things.
Yeah.
How did you get your foot in the door to that internship, and what has it been like, working here so far?
Yeah, no, for sure. So the foot in the door actually was an extension from somewhat from the previous summer, where one of the keys that helped me be able to secure the internship with Target was linking up with a program you're probably familiar with called Inroads.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Inroads is a nonprofit organization that helps talent minorities get Fortune 500 internships. And so
Major key.
yeah, major key. So they helped me with the Target internship, and it was actually my Inroads coach who pushed me to apply for Google.
Okay.
Because at the time, I had put my name out I had applied to Procter & Gamble, didn't even get a call back or an interview. And so she was the one who, when she presented the Google opportunity, just being realistic, I was like, I don't know, maybe I should just go back to Target. Procter & Gamble didn't even give me a call back. What are my chances with Google? But she encouraged me to submit an application. She worked with me on my essay, and once I had an interview, that was kind of a wrap.
Yeah.
So just took it from there.
You got the social skills. A lot of times it's like, if I can just get that interview, get my foot
Yeah.
in the door, I'm gonna nail it.
Yeah.
Hit that home run. So
Yeah.
much respect.
Yeah.
So from that, I know you also have a passion for diversity, and
Yeah.
diversity in Silicon Valley is a huge issue.
Yeah.
With the industry blowing up, and we're really trying to get more people that look like us
Yep.
in that space. Talk about your work with Black Tech Mecca
Yeah.
and your goals and your missions, and what people need to know about it.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I think the interesting thing is around tech diversity is, in my opinion, it's just an extension or a microcosm of just the overall social inequalities and inequities, and it's exposed more through tech.
Yeah.
And so
Why is that?
So I think it comes down to where, if you look at there's several different industries you can look at where we're not appropriately represented.
Right.
And I think tech stands out not only because it's hot and sexy now. That's one. It's hot and sexy. Also, it's a huge just for the country to be competitive, just for the state to be competitive. It's going to be huge that more U.S. citizens, more Illinois citizens are able to participate in the innovation economy. So there's you have this hot, sexy thing, then you have this behind the scenes actual power and citizenship development that needs to happen. But I think what leads to some of the lower numbers is when you, in my opinion, it's two things. You look at one, a lot of times for different tech-related jobs or technical occupations, it requires a high proficiency in math, sciences, the STEMs as most people talk about,
Right.
and that is where, due to stumbling blocks at young ages, that a lot of us kind of get cut off at the knees,
Right.
to be able to succeed in. But then also the thing you look at, a lot of these big tech companies are founded out of Silicon Valley or out of places like Palo Alto. And the interesting thing is, if you look at the demographics of these places, in Palo Alto, for example, what would you guess the percentage of the black population is in Palo Alto?
Probably low. I would say 5% or less.
That's a good guess. So it's 1.8.
Okay.
So if you think about it, the biggest companies are being founded in spaces like this that are like that.
Yeah.
Then the founders are normally going to be
From Ivy League.
certain color, certain background.
Right.
They're close friends that helped them found the company, and then from there, most of the times the most employees that could get into these companies are through referrals, and so it's like
it just kind of
from the DNA of the company.
Right.
It's almost doomed to be very
Right.
diverse from the beginning.
So what about when a minority has this breakthrough idea in
Yeah.
tech? What's like entering into that market or that economy like? Is it like pushback or is it more accepted? Because that's the real
Yeah.
question I would like to know.
Yeah, so I think the societal winds are blowing in our favor now, where diversity is a big buzzword. People have been talking about it for a while, but now resources are actually starting to follow. Dollars are starting to follow.
That's
so
major.
I feel like we're moving in the right direction, but we just shouldn't lose sight that we're moving in the right direction. But there's a lot of ground that still needs to be covered.
So what is Black Tech Mecca doing to really solve this problem and spearhead the issues?
No, for sure. And I can give you a bit of background on like how Black Tech Mecca came to be.
Okay.
And so it was interesting, like the points you made about, okay, how do you break into the industry? What do you do when you get here? And that's where, I kind of found myself several years ago where after I graduated from college, moved to a new city, working at a new company, and I show up here in our office of at the time over 600 people, and there's not one black male manager, in the entire office.
Yeah.
We didn't have, at the time, a black employee group chapter, even though there were chapters in other offices. And so it was challenging where I stepped into a space where some of the key support systems that should be in place weren't necessarily, in place.
Right.
So I was fortunate enough that I joined a great team, had a great manager, and they were able to like help me be successful and get on a good track. But as I looked around, I realized that not other brothers and sisters were having that same experience, because you live and die by your manager pretty much. Like if you don't click with your manager, if you don't have a great relationship,
Reynolds.
yeah, it's challenging. And so that's where when I saw that the odds are stacked against you when you don't have this support in place, I got really passionate about how can we make sure that every black Googler, every black person in the company globally had this type of support. And so what that looked like was I realized that there were other offices in the US that didn't have chapters, but I also realized that there were no chapters outside of the US. So if you were a black person working at Google in Brazil, in London, in Johannesburg, South Africa, anywhere in the world, you're kind of on your own. And so, long story short, I ended up going on this crusade where I went and cold called black Googlers on 4 different continents, had meetings with them, asked them like, hey, are you getting the support you needed? And made a case for us to expand globally. However, when I took that to the leadership at the time, of course it was a no-brainer. They thought it was a good idea, but the main challenge was, okay, who's going to do it? And so I ended up spearheading our global expansion and setting up our global leadership team and serving as our inaugural global co-chair. So a couple years ago, this was 2014, I found myself responsible for all the black Googlers at the company while still working my job, my normal job. And so we had a blast. We were able to expand and launch chapters, like I said, across 4 different continents. I even went to visit and help set up in places like Brazil, Johannesburg. And
got to do some travel.
Yeah, I did a little travel. So
work perks.
So all that was great. It was fantastic. And we had solved an issue within the company. But through those experiences, I came to the shocking realization, or the mind-boggling realization, that we solved this problem within a company, within Google, but there was a universal issue in all the different cities where blacks still weren't able to really, thrive in technology. And so that just led me to ask the question, like, what if someone could create a space where blacks could thrive in technology? What if someone could create a space where that could be a beacon for the black community, the tech community, and the world? And that was like, what if someone could create a global Black Tech Mecca?
And there it was.
Yeah, that was like where the original inspiration came from.
So why Chicago and not Silicon Valley?
Yeah, exactly. So here's my just stance on, building, like, we need to be able to build thriving tech ecosystems, black tech ecosystems, where we already have a strong nucleus of a black community. And unfortunately, we don't really have that in the Bay Area. Like, we have Oakland, but people don't realize that Oakland's pretty small, and only about 20% of the population is even, black.
Right.
We need to be building thriving black tech ecosystems in places like Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Detroit, Houston, like these cities where that are close to, our communities. And when we looked at the landscape and looked at the large nucleus that was here in Chicago, we looked at the way the general tech scene was growing in Chicago, and just how Chicago was a global power city, like the fourth economically powerful city in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the world business Chicago.
Nice.
That is like this. We had the raw materials to be able to make it happen.
And there was.
Yeah.
So, have you guys faced any challenges?
Challenges.
Yeah.
Challenges come a dime a dozen, right?
They're all over.
So, but to take a step back, so that was, the vision is like, what if we could create this type of space? And what we realized was that the biggest challenge or void that was keeping us from not only creating a global Black Tech Mecca, but creating healthy Black Tech communities anywhere, was there was a huge data and insights void, where in Chicago, no matter where you go, no one can tell you how big the Black Tech community is, how many folks are in it, what do they do. No one can tell you whether all the different diversity.
No one had done the research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No one can tell you whether, hey, with all these nonprofits, all this money, all this investment, how's the Black Tech community moved forward in the last year, in the last 10 years, in the last few decades? No one had that information.
Right.
And so that's where we've really found our niche, stepping in to provide those data and insights and thought leadership.
So have you guys been able to get funding? How are you guys raising money for the initiative that you guys put in?
So our main focus, our main initiative we have right now is actually our State of the Black Tech Ecosystem research study that we're actually releasing next month. And why we're really excited about this study and how it's a game changer is that we're introducing a framework to be able to evaluate the health of the Black Tech community in any given city. So pretty much be able to take the temperature.
Right.
And from there, being able to know where you stand and have growth strategies and frameworks on, okay, how do you develop from where you're at?
Gotcha.
And so we're going to be comparing Chicago to a few other key markets.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man, kudos to you on that, bro.
Yeah, no
that,
problem.
that is amazing work, bro.
Yep.
Real talk, man.
Yep. But I didn't answer your question about funding piece.
Yeah.
So for the research study, we hired a team of researchers from UIC, local university, and then we partnered with the Department of Innovation and Technology here in Chicago. And so as far as funding, data rules everything. Like, data is almost more valuable than money these days. Well, data is a currency in a lot of ways. And so different companies, different organizations, they know there's a data void. They know they don't understand the ecosystem. They know this research, this information can help them to be more effective with their programs.
Right.
So most of our sponsorship for the report and for the big event we're having next month is from corporate partners.
Okay.
Yep. So.
Nice. Let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship.
Okay. Yep.
So for me, one of my favorite things about being an entrepreneur is the ability to take an idea and put it into action in a very small frame of time.
Right.
So I'm curious to know, what is one of your favorite things about being an entrepreneur?
I think one of my favorite things is similar to what you're saying is, Johnny, is that the concept of being able to take an idea, and bring it, to reality. I think that's one of the things that is most fascinating about it. And then having just the control over that process and having the influence on that potential impact, that you can make is something that I really enjoy. But I don't know, it's just exciting. Like, I've always been entrepreneurial, even from a young age.
Really?
I can tell you little stories about some of my different hijinks.
What was one of your first entrepreneurial ventures?
Okay, so one of my very first ones was when I was in second grade. One of my best friends, a guy named Curtis Tanner, he could draw really well.
Okay.
And we were both like huge Dragon Ball Z fans at the time. So he would just like to draw pictures, and I came to him with a proposition. I was like, Curtis, these are really good pictures. You like to draw. If you draw these pictures, I'll take them and sell them for you. And so we had a little operation where like Curtis would just sit down and draw whatever he wanted to draw, and I'd take them and maybe sell them for 25 cents, 50 cents.
Yeah.
He didn't really want the money, so I just kept all the money. So that was perfect. So had huge profit margins, no cost, so
Right, no overhead, no
no
cost.
overhead. So that was a good one. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I think leaders are readers for sure,
Mhm.
and you're leading a crazy movement. So I
Yeah.
know that you've done your research and your studying.
Yeah.
Tell me one book that you've read that has really changed your life as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I'd say that one book that's been more tactical for me, just that's very focused on what we're doing with ecosystem development, is a book called The Rainforest.
Okay.
It basically was written by these two venture capitalists and investors from Silicon Valley who have produced these frameworks and these blueprints on how do you create your own Silicon Valley in whatever city you're in, or your own like innovation economy. So
Yeah.
that was an awesome book, just to be able to see how other people have thought about
Right.
it, and then be able to like retweak it for the black community.
Yeah.
So that was key, just like as far as like focus area, as far as
Right.
what we're focused on.
Are there any companies or CEOs that you model your approach to business? Because tech has so many famous pioneer entrepreneurs,
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd say I'm inspired by leaders across like all, not only industries, but just all walks of life.
Right.
Where I feel like sometimes I get more fascinated by like an individual's story or just the impact they were able to make
Yeah.
versus whether they were a tech person or
Yeah.
in a certain field. I get inspired by anyone who did something amazing, like
Yeah.
who just was made some type of crazy impact.
Like who? For me,
Yeah.
I really like Steve Jobs.
Okay,
Steve
yeah.
Jobs always has intrigued me just because of his personality type and his approach to life. Like one thing he said at the Stanford commencement is like,
Yeah.
we're all going to die. And it seems a bit harsh, but when you think of it like that, you're naked. You have nothing to lose. Like you got to go for it because time is so limited.
Right.
And that has always inspired me to just follow my passion.
Yeah.
So he's one of my favorites, but what you got?
Well, yeah, I'd say in just like from a just vision standpoint, one of the most inspiring folks to me is like Elon Musk.
Yeah,
Like just
that's the guy.
I like his approach to just like thinking about space and like these wild ideas
Yeah.
and actually like going for them. So I like that. I like the size or like the scope of his vision, but then also Tristan Walker is
Shout out Bevel.
Yeah, one of my. I really admire his length of vision, where like apparently I think he's referenced having like a 100-year plan, for Walker brand, his company,
That's
Walker
dope.
brand, and just I really like that because I like to push myself to think like transgenerationally
Yeah.
and like thinking beyond your lifetime. So like, what is Black Tech Mecca gonna look like in 2116 and like
Yeah.
different things like that.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to do that. It's difficult sometimes. So I
Absolutely.
respect someone who's like very
You've been able to just to
deliberate
plan
about it.
that out. Yeah, it's
Yeah, I don't know what it looks like.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, how do you even plan
I'm
that?
trying to
far
look at
back?
like 5 years from now,
Or
like
tomorrow, right? Yeah. So yeah.
So a huge staple for this project, and one thing that's near and dear to my heart, is the saying, passion changes everything.
Yeah.
And I believe passion is so important because if you follow your passion, it will lead you to your purpose.
Yep.
And it's very obvious that you are essentially walking in your purpose.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to know, what is your passion?
Yeah.
And when did you know?
Yeah. So I think for me, just going through life, I was always looking for something to throw myself into and like looking for, okay, man, what's that cause? What's
Yeah.
that thing that really makes me come alive?
Right, likewise.
And it was just, I think for everyone who's found theirs would relate. It's just a gradual process, and when you hit it, you realize, you look back and you're like, oh, okay, that's how everything kind of fit together. And for me, it came through my own search for identity and my blackness, and like diving in to better understand, like mainly questions that came up on like, why are things the way they are around us?
Right.
Why is the black community in its current state? Why don't you see as many of us in like top leadership positions?
Yeah.
I mean, at the time I was looking at like the Forbes 70 most powerful list. I was looking at, okay, why did we only have like 1 or 2 black senators? Why is less than 1% of Fortune 500 CEOs black? And like just these different questions.
Done your research.
Yeah, this was years ago.
Right.
Well, back in like 2012, like after I graduated, like I just couldn't kick like why this is, and just things really turned when I read Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson.
Yeah.
And he answered like all my questions almost, like, or he painted the perfect picture on like why things were the way.
Clarity.
Yeah, why things were the way they were. And so once I read that, it was a wrap as far as just like, I had an insatiable appetite for like Black history.
How old were you?
So I was 23.
Okay.
Yeah, so every book I could get my hands on, I started reading Garvey, I started reading, Malcolm, like everything I could get my hands on. And like, what really made me come alive is I became outraged on like the state of the global Black community. I became outraged that the fact that 18 of the 20 poorest countries in the world are in Africa. I became outraged that Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and that wherever we are the majority in a country, they're some of the poorest countries in the world, and when we're the minority in a country, we are normally disproportionately in the lower socioeconomic status. Yeah, and so I was like, man, this is a huge global issue, and honestly, I got pissed off about it.
Yeah.
And so I started looking for ways that, just from where I'm standing, what can I do about it?
Right.
And that's what actually led me to wanting to create a stronger global Black community, within Google.
Yeah.
And it's been a driving passion for Black Tech Mecca.
Yeah, man, you've done a great job with that, bro.
I appreciate
so,
it.
with that aspiration and that fury,
Yeah.
when you look at your life, what would you say is your greatest fear?
Mm-hmm.
What do you not want to happen the most?
I'd say, one of my fears has been, or challenges is, okay, you want to do so much, you want to have this big impact, where do you start and how do you, consistently go about it the right way?
Right. Oh, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's a big factor of figuring out that you can't do everything at once.
Yeah.
And, everything takes time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who have big dreams, a lot of people have these big visions and high level ideas,
Yeah.
but it takes a really talented and experienced person to be able to see the logistics of that big vision,
Right.
So that's something that we all do.
Yeah, I'd probably add too, though, is like also fear of like, and I think this is just in general, fear of what other people will think.
Yeah. That's completely.
Yeah, fear of how you will be perceived. Because I feel like
that's kind of for you to step out, to be that guy who is pushing for diversity and then work in this space where it's like predominantly white, or you're the minority.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah. Right. No, for sure. I mean, honestly, for all these things that, so doing the thing with our Black employee group, now doing Black Tech Mecca, I gotta admit, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I just knew there's something I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
Maybe if I knew what I was getting myself into, I would have not did it or taught myself out of it. But once you're in it, you're in it.
There's no looking back.
Yeah, you gotta finish it. And that's the thing I tell myself, like, if I ask myself, why Black Tech Mecca, one of the things is like, man, you gotta finish what you start, and so if you're gonna go all the way.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that is like just a drive-in motivator.
Yeah. I guess everyone has had a dream at some point, or maybe still has a dream. What separates people who have made their dream a reality from the people who haven't?
What separates? So I think the first thing is like, most people don't even start. A lot of people start and quit, but I think the majority of people don't even start.
Really?
And so I would say the thing that separates someone who's made their dream happen, who hasn't, someone who started, and someone who has been committed both to not quitting but committed to their own growth.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I realize is that Black Tech Mecca, or anything I'm looking to do, it's only going to grow as much as I grow as a person. And so I prioritize my own personal growth because I know that's what is hinging the success of everything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, I think people don't have that why, because you know how you said you were like infuriated, and that like manifested something inside of you that is projecting out, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't identify the why, or have a good why that will push them through the times when it gets hard and they're tired, So that's definitely a good point, man. What advice do you have for young people that want to shine in the tech industry or as entrepreneurs? What's the mindset? What do they need to know?
Man, I don't want to oversimplify it, but in order to shine, it all comes back to, in my opinion, identity and knowing who you are, self-awareness, your identity, knowing who you are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are. And if you can just find a way to capitalize on your strengths, bring those to the forefront and protect your weaknesses from ruining everything,
Right.
you'll be A-okay. So I mean, that's the thing that's been helpful for me, is just focusing on, you know, what do I do really well, what do I like to do. And it's as simple as, what do you get excited about doing? What do you do that energizes you?
Right.
You need to find a way to do that as much as possible, versus what are the things that do that frustrate you, or you're not time it sucks to do. You need to find a way to build a team or get folks to help you do those things that suck the energy, and you find ways to do things that bring energy, and you'll kill it. There's only so much that you'll be able to do by yourself. There's only as far as you'll be able to go. There's only a limited amount of impact that you're ever really be able to make. And you know, you live and die by your team. Not only what they can do to advance your mission, but I mean, having a team is also like your support system too, to keep you inspired and
accountable.
Exactly, because it's not about, you know, in your dark night, we're like, maybe I should just give this up. You think about, you could just back into a corner, but you got to go explain that to a few other people. You know, like
you don't want to have that
everything.
conversation.
Yeah, so.
Well, man, that wraps up today's conversation, man. Really appreciate your time and insight.
I'm proud. Johnny had a blast.
Yeah, man. So, I'm really excited to get you a part of the network, and also to provide more platforms for you to share your message. That's going to be a major thing for us with ShineHard in 2017. Is putting us and our people on panels and workshops. Maybe have you as a keynote speaker for something. I mean, I think it could be really, really innovative and impactful. So I would say tell everybody how they can find you online and anything they need to know. Yeah,
so finding me online, Fabian Elliott. You can Google my name or go to my website, fabianelliott.com.
Google me.
Yeah, it has links. You can find me on Twitter, Fabian_Elliott, Instagram, focused_Fabe. So I'm you know, all over the board. So you can connect with me like that. You can connect with Black Tech Mecca by just Googling Black Tech Mecca, going to our site. We're on all the social media platforms. We have a newsletter and other items too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys can find me, Johnny Bailey, at JB's Food for Thought. You can follow the ShineHard Project at ShineHard Family, ShineHardFamily.com. You guys continue to follow your passion, find a way to serve, find an identity, and as always, together we shine. Peace, guys. Thanks, babe.
All right, no problem.
It's not you, baby girl. Don't think for a second that you don't got the juice. It's me, not you. I've been acting like a fool cause I can't handle you getting hurt by me. I respect you getting too deep. I'ma try to up and leave. Don't wanna make you cry, hit you with too many lies. Like you the only one, but I'm crushing on 3. Baby, I'm a boy trying to be a man. Working on the plan, running with the clan. Developing for my #1 fan. They say it won't work if you